anything else would be.
Okay, where are we now here? All right, we have anything on 5?
I know this is going to come up later on. A non-participating property owner is a property owner who has no contractual agreement with the applicant. I know the question will come up is when somebody signs a waiver, do they sign the waiver with the applicant? Who does the waiver go to? And does that make them participating once they sign a waiver, or are they still
Well, they're signing a waiver with the planning board.
with the planning board?
But that waiver is probably, they may be signing that waiver based on an agreement that they have with either the budding landowner or the applicant, saying, okay, you can have a closer setback, provided I get, say, $5,000. So, he may want to be tying the applicant in to make sure that that waiver is conditioned on that payment. I know Ron and I had discussed this, and I think it makes him a participating owner. But there could be a contractual agreement with the applicant. And so I get my feeling is that you put in an exclusion into that and the participating owner, the property owner, simply saying, an otherwise non-participating owner, property owner who consents to a waiver, with conditions, does not make him a participating property owner.
So do we need a definition of a waiver property owner?
You could even refer to the waiver, if a non-participating property owner consents to a waiver under whatever our waiver section is, does not make him a participating property. He's still not going to have a windmill on his property. He's not going to, it's not going to be the same issue that you have with the participating property.
So a participating property owner has the windmill on his property? Or could he be, I guess that's the end of my question. What is a participating? Having a windmill or just getting money?
He receives compensation.
Well, it's lease option or otherwise encumbered by a contractual agreement. The question is, just because someone consents to a waiver, does that make him a participating property owner? And I know, when that was discussed a couple of weeks ago, I think John was thinking that, may make him a participating property owner. The issue, comes down to, do you want him to be a participating property owner? Which then all of a sudden sets those setbacks that much, well, actually, it sets it closer, because you've got a longer setback, or, a minimum setback for a non-participating owner. I mean, he is or isn't dependent on what you decide he is.
As long as you feel as though we have this clearly.
But it may not be clearly stated here. But I think we can, so since that's an issue, different people have raised it, including John, raised it. We should clarify it one way or the other.
Okay. You tell us where we need to clarify it then.
if someone consents to a waiver, albeit maybe with a cash payment, you know, to allow that, you know, a shorter setback, does that receipt of a payment, despite the fact that he doesn't have a lease with them, that he doesn't have a windmill on his site, does that make him a participating owner?
It could or it could not.
I
What if he
guess
signs, I'm sorry, if he signs a waiver, if someone signs a waiver for someone else's benefit, but doesn't want anything for it, that doesn't make him a participating property owner.
No. It wouldn't. And should, you know, just the fact that he, you know, may get a, you know, a payment to consent to that waiver, because, you know, if he's consenting to the waiver, it's because he doesn't, for one reason or another, feel it's impinging on his property rights or, you know, whatever else. In those I mean, waivers are required by everyone within the required setbacks. You know, so you could be, if you don't get all of the people within the required setback, then you're, you know, you don't have your waiver. So it's not as if there are two people, you know, with similar property distances. One says, I'll consent to the waiver. That doesn't give anybody the waiver. If you've got the other person saying, no, I'm not doing it.
So is the definition then of non-participating property owner, okay?
Yes, it's written.
My feeling is that you should exclude, you know, so it's clear that you should exclude, you know, non-participant, that in the event a person consents to a waiver, does not make him a participating property owner. The wording may have to be adjusted a little bit. And then in the same with the participating property owner, you know, an otherwise non-participating property owner who consents to a waiver does not make him a participating property.
As long as that clarification is made, then I can present it.
There wouldn't be waivers.
Yeah, I think that, you know, those, each of those definitions should have that exclusion, you know, so it's clear.
Okay, makes sense.
Who's going to adjust the wording?
I think our legal representative
We-
is really qualified to do
The
that.
site-
I think I'll pass it to Roger. No, we'll get,
Yeah.
put some wording together.
So you're going to do it on both?
I think it should be, just so it's real clear.
That's
Planning
all.
board okay with that?
Yes, I am.
I just want this really simple, so that there's no misunderstanding, no duplication of any meeting. So we worked a long time on this on the WIN committee. And I thank the WIN committee for helping us out on this one. Even after going over this so many times, all of a sudden, when you look at this, you get another small viewpoint of it. And I just want total clarification.
I think our intent, when it came to the waiver process, was not to elevate the status of a non-participating who signs a waiver to become participating, because it would make a moot point of a waiver. Because then the setbacks are so much different between participating and non-participating. It should be delineated somehow that they are a different status, but not to the point where it'd be participating. And that was our intent, I believe, right? Right.
And that's all this would do.
Right, right.
Sounds good. All right. Page 6. okay there?
I don't know where this should go, but I think we need a definition. There are no setbacks set up for anything but a residence. Do we need to somehow not have it close to a barn or somebody's garage?
Yeah, but there was structures in there that was deleted, right?
Do we want that back in there for that reason, or do we leave it up to the property owner who is dealing with the windmill company to decide if they don't care if it falls on their barn? Or do we want to make sure that
I think we should have structures in there, all structures, except for, 12 by 12, something like that. Got a sugar shack out in the woods or something.
I was gonna say, somebody might have a little hunting cabin or,
You wouldn't want it to fall on anything anyway,
well,
that's what I'm saying. It's like you're right, this, so if there's a barn there, yeah, I mean, it should have some distance away from the hunting camp or whatever you're saying.
I would think that would be the property owner that would have to negotiate that, but say that there was a shack that's been there.
There's a lean-to out there. Is
Yeah.
that considered a structure?
Would that have to be,
The prior definition of structure, the 12 by 12, that's pretty small. I mean, I guess my thought was that limitation was maybe a little extreme.
So what would you suggest?
Up to you, but I'm thinking that, yes, the property owner is going to be putting one on their property, or allowing one on their property. They're gonna be more determining in that, because you've got your setbacks for property lines,
Right.
so that it's protecting the neighbor.
So do we just leave it up to the property owner to make sure it's far enough from his barn or his hunting cabin or whatever he wants to?
If nothing else, a small turbine is going to probably have a structure right underneath it, which is where your,
Yeah.
Right,
battery, whatever else you're.
right, so just leave it as a residence?
could you put it to be reviewed by the planning board? So in other words, if there's something there and it comes out, then it's up to the planning board to go back to the individual and say, this is where this is where that is, you want that there.
Would the planning board know that there was a
You can't, you have
hunting
to have.
cabin?
You don't want,
I think we'd be remiss if we didn't have some type of,
Definition.
if we didn't have some type of a setback in our law. Because, you leave it up to the property owner and windmill designer, and then something happens, we don't have it in our law, and a windmill falls in somebody's house because that's where they wanted to put it. I just don't think that's a good idea. I think we need to have some type of I think we need to have it in our law, some type of a setback, going with the times.
Generally, you have the same setback.
Liability.
Structure to do a residence.
All right, so how do we eliminate the little hunting shack that hasn't been used in the last 25 years?
Also, may I just interject that, doesn't the codes officer consider any structure bigger than 144 square foot a structure?
Well,
That's what these are building.
Right.
yeah.
Well, that's a
Building.
structure.
Well,
What I told is,
no, the structure for this is whatever you decide it to be. Yes, or, that garden shed, are you really going to, plan a law based on the fact that somebody might move a,
no, but what I'm getting at is anything bigger than a 12 by 12 is considered a structure.
our structure can be whatever we want, right?
Yeah.
But the codes officer says a 12 by 12 is a structure.
Yes, but under this law, you can make a
You can change that?
definition of structure, sure.
Okay.
Because it's what,
It could be 20 by 20, so
Well,
many square feet.
Well, it's determined by authority given jurisdiction. That's what the code does.
well, no, the building code's a totally different, animal. Because you've got totally different risks that you're looking at.
I know, but if we put that in there, it'll give us a safeguard to determine what is a structure.
Of course, then you gotta have the exclusion for the windmill structure. All the buildings associated.
The windmill
How
structure would be in the
can
first-
you take the definition of structure about when you're putting a structure in? I'm asking, why did that definition come out?
I think people object to the fact it stipulated 144 square feet.
And permanent, non-permanent, for the two things. For non-permanent, you can take any of these on-Mr. steel sheds and set one up. Anytime you want to move it. You need to be talking garages, whole buildings. Structures of significance.
Why don't you say structure on a permanent foundation?
Yeah, a permanent structure, how's that? A permanent structure. But again, you can say a house trailer is not a permanent structure too. Wheels on it.
Something of significance.
So we in agreement with that to add a definition of structure?
Sounds that way. Got the board lines?
I think you ought to re-inject that definition of what a structure is. Because you're gonna be putting up a gigantic, possibly a gigantic structure at some point in time. You don't have any definition of a structure. That's the way I look at it.
So we're gonna call it permanent structure, is that
Where we're at.
I think we should go with square footage.
Permanent building over so many square feet. For example, I rent some land, and there's probably a 12 by 10 building shed that's been out there for years and years and years. And nobody uses it, it's just been there, it was left there, so I would hate to think that that would be called a structure and, determine how far a windmill could be from that. Because it's just, it's junk. And I've seen some tree stands that were pretty elaborate, so.
But we don't want to move a windmill.
No, we don't.
So just a definition of the structure, according to New York State Building Code, over 144 square feet would suffice. Anything over that 144 square feet, correct?
Correct. So that's not very large.
Yeah, yes, good, essentially.
I mean, that, 12 by 12 is not very large.
A lot of your garages are 20 by 24 or 24 square.
Which would be.
So 20 by 24 is
20 by 20, 400 square
400
feet.
square feet.
400 square feet.
I think we could go with it, it's 144 myself. That's my opinion.
Take the definition that was there and read it.
Well, I don't know what that was.
I
I'll
think,
see it was on one, like,
Yeah.
you want to grab that, right, and you want it back.
I think that's what the wind committee had initially, and they gave it to the planning board. And I think it was 144 square feet.
Yeah, well,
Love it.
yeah. So we could just,
That's just a legal definition.
yeah, people that can't use it.
I agree with Ronnie, I think that was the correct.
Can somebody read the whole one? I'm trying.
You got it.
You got it? Can you read it?
Can we read out loud this time?
Any building with a floor area greater than 144 square feet, temporary or permanent